Hey, welcome everyone to the inaugural episode of the Double Take by Max and Mike. We'd like to introduce you to this episode, which is our first one, why voice CX has become a premium in today's automated world. I'll talk a little bit about some articles that contribute to this sort of perspective. And I'm Mike. I am one of the co-CEOs of Alorica.
I'm Max. I am the other co-CEO of Alorica. And before we start, just say happy Thanksgiving. I hope nobody burns a turkey this year. I have some good personal stories about that, but we'll save that for another podcast.
That'll be a Burn Turkey podcast post-Thanksgiving holiday.
What not to do when you're making Thanksgiving is what that
Oh,
podcast. So.
I know better than to actually try to cook. I leave that to the people who know how to do that much better. Hey, Max. So happy Thanksgiving to you too, and to all of our Alorica compadres around the world. For those who celebrate in North America, a few days off, which is fantastic. Hey, we have an interesting topic. So this sort of world of AI, chatbots, and voice. What's your take here, buddy? What do you think?
Listen, this is something that you and I talk about all the time, right? And I think today's marketplace has really become dominated with this news cycle of the rise of AI and chatbots. Chatbots have been here for a long time, right? What is interesting, I think, is that in this increasingly digitized world with metahumans or AI and chatbots, it actually is becoming somewhat of a differentiator or a value enhancer to have, let's call it a voice CX solution or someone to talk to solve your problem. I think if you think about it, everyone has a personal experience or anecdote where they're talking on the phone for a long period of time, or they're waiting to get to somebody. They keep pressing zero. The long wait times. There's all these automated systems and prompts that you have to seamlessly go through. And I think it creates a lot of customer dissatisfaction in general. So when you're able to offer a more seamless blending of the two, you really have a differentiated offering. I don't know. I think that's something you and I talked about a fair bit.
Yeah, no, we do. And it's funny because later we'll talk about our sort of upbringings and how we think of the digital world. And I think that perspective will play into how these channels get consumed. But I do think that voice, as you well said, is starting to become a premium, but it also comes with a kind of a stigma attached to it, right? Which is your tiered services. And that stigma comes to, if I'm a higher tiered person, I get to a person to talk to, which is an interesting way to think about it. But so do you think that in your world, do you think the CX matters to people in the future?
I certainly think so. And, it's funny because, some of the articles that have come out recently are specifically about how Gen Z is starting to look at things differently than a millennial, which is what I am, and Gen X, which is what you are. And so the way I think about it is this: people want to engage with someone when they have to negotiate or have a personal problem they have to solve. They care less so about more transactional volumes. Where's my package? Where's my bank balance? Stuff like that. So I think personally in 2025 and years to come, the import of voice and having a personal connection with a person is, absent the Turing test and all that, is going to be something that's very valuable to people because it builds a tremendous amount of trust and loyalty when you're able to talk to someone and they're able to help solve your problem, be it a big or a small one. Personally, and your refill.
No, I agree with you. There's always this sort of balance between quick transaction turnaround. So things that I can do, whether mobile phone or telephony based, but mostly mobile phone, you get frustrated. We always use this example of the ATM machine, right? You and I, when we talk, which is, you walk up to an ATM, you put your card in, you click 5 buttons, you get some money and you get out. But there's a person in front of you who, when we first put ATMs in a machine, you may not know this, but you used to get frustrated because the person using the ATM didn't know how to. It was all these buttons and screens to get the cash out. And you got frustrated that person was taking too long. You actually were frustrated, the person, not the bank.
Right.
And it was really the experience on the screen that the bank didn't get perfected, but you blame the person for not knowing how to do it. I think in the mobile phones, it's similar. You want every transaction on that mobile device. I think eventually people get frustrated, but then this voice play almost gets the stigma of a premium service tier, which, it really depends. I think when we have different sort of generations from where I am and where you are, millennials, in my view, or my X, as I would call myself, I grew up having people answer my question and actually that interaction becoming somewhat personal. Like I felt like they cared about what I had to say. And the more I use my phone, I get more frustrated that I could do it. And really for me, it's a convenience of 24/7. So we work a lot, we travel a lot, we're in many countries. Well, I want to be able to do the things on my mobile phone with my cash or whatever else I need to do, shopping, to be able to do that when I need time off, which in any country it's at the convenience of doing it. So to me, I look at digital channels as extending my ability to interact with the company I want to interact with, but I do want to talk to humans when I have a problem. I mean, that's my headset. I don't know what yours would be.
Yeah, no, I think for me, it's slightly different, but it's very similar in that, like, I was, in thinking about today's, our first podcast, the topic is really appropriate, because, I'm sure you can think of a recent example in your own life, or I know I can in mine, where you talk to someone on the phone to solve an issue after going through a series of prompts, and you had such a great experience with them helping to solve your problem in a very constructive and thoughtful way, that it made me a more loyal or more invested customer in that company, right? And so I would opt to buy their, products or services much more often because they had such a great customer experience. And so I think the natural inclination of some people to instinctively think of it as a premium service, coming from a finance guy background, I understand the nature of that. I think the difference, though, I would say, is you cannot put a premium on customer acquisition, right? And the import of having that consumer be loyal and continue to buy your product, whether it's an iPhone, a cell phone plan, if it's a healthcare plan, whatever the case may be, having the degree of loyalty. And the way that I think, if you kind of think about how this transitions into the future, listen, AI is an incredibly powerful and interesting thing, and as are chatbots, right? And you could use 1,000 other technological innovations and interventions in a previously person-to-person conversation. And to me, the ability for us as a company in this space, and I know that's something that we both feel too passionate about, is that it's not an outright elimination of an interaction. It actually is the creation of one, right? And so imagine if you picked up the phone to call, let's call it Alorica carrier, and you say, hey, I've been really, not happy with my plan. They're able to see in seconds kind of what your historical buying pattern is, what some, kind of customer heuristics or attributes. And then immediately you feel seen as a person. Like you said before, I think it's not necessarily different from an X or a millennial or a Z or whatever the crime, whatever my son Sam is. So I think being seen, felt, heard, understood is incredibly important, regardless of generation.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I think, when we're thinking about the impact on our industry, we get asked this question quite a bit.
Yeah.
And we've kind of thought about this in terms of how we tier our service and how the ability of our services to match the need of the clients in sort of their choice of those channels and how they use them. But if you think about the number of transactions, I mean, this is the number one question in the industry right now. These transactions are going to go down and people are going to be needed less. And you and I debate this quite a bit, but I think the theory that, or at least the premise that we built our future strategy on, is that today there's a number of transactions, and I'll use the banking as another great example. The ATM machine allows you to take cash out and check your balances and then make deposits. Those things became less for tellers. But the adage was that those tellers moved up the chain a little bit in the value and became more banking business oriented, became loan management people. So those higher level transactions moved up the stack, which if you move that towards our philosophy and how we're strategizing for the growth of our business, you just have to get better in verticalization. You have to be specialist in those verticals to expand the transaction sets and move up those stacks. So I think we've done that in 23, and now we're starting to see the benefits of that in 24 as we're talking to clients more and more about those journeys. But I think the quantum of number of transactions go up. I don't know if you feel the same, but
I absolutely do. I mean, I think, people, whether it's the financial news or just general news, let's talk about elimination of transactions. I think if you look back, one of my favorite stats that we've talked about often is that at every intersection of technology and CX, an injection of a IVR, a chatbot, AI, whatever the case may be, actually drove an increase in interactions. Because what people expect, like you and I, when we travel around the world, our ability to reach, our brand or our whatever company we use in a second, in an automated way, in a personal way, in multi different ways, like multi-channel addressment point. To me, I think it actually is going to be a boom for the number of transactions. But like you said incredibly well, I think what the folks in CX do will change. And I think moving up the stack in terms of value, like you said, to acquiring new customers, selling additional services. If you think about it, every interaction that we as a company have for our clients with their customers is a potential opportunity to make a sale, improve clarity, anything like that. And today, I think a lot of that's being missed just as a function of the legacy nature of kind of how people think about what this channel can be. And some are changing, which is really exciting.
Yeah, it is. I think your point is one to stress that if you've got a great experience with a person on the other side of the phone on a very complex product set, even my mobile phone and all the things I do from like digital data, streaming, and all of a sudden that person's made your life better and compared a plan, and that plan saves you money, then that money led to a second phone or other services. Then that experience has been nothing but the greatest for that client. I think that channel, whether started from the phone through digital, through an app into the call center, I think is a great one. And that shell side is the magic, right? That's a channel for people to put to work effectively.
Well, and listen, examples where people have probably come up to you. People do this to me in my personal life all the time. They're like, well, Max, I'm sure you guys were the ones that were handling this interaction. I had a terrible experience with this person. And like, well, did you actually get to speak to a person, or were you just working through a prompt? And they're like, well, I was in this prompt forever. Or like, I can't get anyone on the phone from Uber or whatever the case may be. And so companies that abandon that channel, I think, do so at their own peril for what it's worth. So
I tell those people that ask me that question that if they keep asking me and I put them on a special list, that when they call us, never take their calls.
But sometimes I always wonder if when we call in to do something, people are like looking us up to see what they actually know. But thankfully, we have people with a lot of high integrity. I've never seen anything like that.
Well, this is our first episode, which has gone really well. I'm sure we'll only get better at this, but let's just do a short recap and this so everybody understands what we are covering. Listen, we are not adverse to a voice CX channel becoming a premium service, but I do think it does play in all levels. It shouldn't be just for the premium tier. It should be for those that really think about that channel becoming a sales engine or a differentiated capability or experience. I think that's clearer to us that the number of those transactions will only grow, right? Product complexity, what you saw online, continues to grow. I think that's great.
Totally.
And you mentioned a little bit about the balance of AI.
Yeah. And so the balance between finding that right balance will be different for every company. It'll be different for each vertical. Balance between AI and human interaction, I think, is one that every company's defined where they are on their line, right? And I think what we've directed our company at kind of really focusing on is having a very bespoke approach to this. So what works for company A that Max is with, or company B that Mike is with, is not the same. It's what does Mike feel is important for his customers? What does Max feel is important for his customers? So walking that differentiation in a customized or bespoke way, I think, is incredibly important.
Well, listen, we have a little teaser for the next one. We're already queuing up number 2 of the double take. This one's going to be mentors in motion. We're co-CEOs. So the second question we get asked a lot is, so why do you guys want to do this? And what makes you think the two of you are better than just one of you? So we'll answer those in the next episode. But a lot of our people asked us this, so it'll be fun to take that topic on.
It'll be fun. People always, that's the first or second question that we get asked almost always. And so I think it's an interesting perspective. It's not necessarily unique, but it is certainly a little bit more, let's call it, it's Alorica specific than other. So it's definitely exciting platform.
Followed by the third question is, do you have to be bald to be the CEO?
Which, doesn't hurt these days. So good.
I tell them you have to be stressed, but it's fine.
Well, that's a gift. That's a gift. So.
All right, everyone. Thank you for the time. We're leaving you now.
Take care, everybody.
Take care.